Welcome to Sunday Morning Quarterback with Jay Stockwell and Bob Frady. Hey, boys. Happy Sunday morning.
It's a very happy Sunday morning in Nebraska land.
I think the SMQ crew can take a victory lap because I think we were very prescient with our preseason program.
So a buddy of mine sent me a text right before the game. He's like, Nebraska is 27.5-point favorites. I'm like, that's a lot of points.
Yeah.
And they covered that in the first half. That's my hot take.
40-7 victory for the big Huskers, and we called a lot of it. I mean, we talked about the dynamic quarterback room. Dylan Raiola did not disappoint. George called out the fantastic receiver room that we have.
I did not necessarily believe young Stockwell, but after watching the game yesterday, I'm like, oh, those guys are good. And what happened with Malachi Coleman? I didn't see him anywhere yesterday.
I think that everybody else is just better than him. I mean, we saw.
He must have been injured because I think one of the hot takes is that everybody played yesterday.
Yeah, 109 players played in the game.
And if Malachi Coleman isn't in your top 109, then something's up.
He might be hurt. He might be hurt. Or it could be some disciplinary thing. So my hot take is we kind of called it. We talked about the quarterbacks. We talked about the running back room. Talked about the wide receivers. Everybody stepped up. Super impressed across the board. The defense, right around the time that the safety occurred, really turned the ball game around. And we just kind of left them in the dust. So
it's ironic that the fumble led to turning the game around because they were marching in to score. Dowdell fumbled it. I think he got banished to Kansas after that. And then safety touchdown. Boom, boom. Out go the lights. The game was pretty much done at that point. So really great response by the team. Felt bad for Dowdell. I thought he was the best back on the field, hands down. The other guys were great. But Dowdell is he's a cannonball. He's a order of magnitude different. But
if he puts the ball on the ground, he's going to see the bench.
Yeah, Matt Rule said if you fumble, if you turn the ball over, you're not going to play. And he pretty much made good in his word yesterday.
So, George, what's your hot take?
I mean, I think the only reason that we're not having more yards passing is just we have such a good running back room that we don't need to pass it as much. I mean, as you were saying, Uncle Bob, Dowdell was having like 5-6 yards a carry every single time. Emmett Johnson had a big run, and Dave Irvin had 2 touchdowns. So I like the diversity within the running back room. We had 5 or 6 different running backs play. So I'm really happy.
5.9 yards per carry. Guys, and the balance, we had 47 rushes for 223, 25 passes, 25 of 36 for 284. So that's 500 yards of offense. Very, very balanced on 72 plays with a time of possession of 38-32 versus 21-24. And we won the all-important turnover battle, which is something we haven't done in a season.
Yep.
Two interceptions to just the one fumble. And again, it was the Dowdell fumble. But I agree with you. He impressed. But again, the whole running back room looks fantastic. I mean, Gabe Irvin as the short down back. Our friend up here, Emmett Johnson, looked very shifty. Ramir Johnson played extremely well. So, what about receivers, George? Who was the top receiver in your mind?
Isaiah Nair, 6 receptions, 121 yards. Obviously, he had that one really nice touchdown. And in the beginning of the game, we saw when Raiola went for his first big pass, Nair just missed out. I mean, if he catches that, that's 170 yards. I mean, I thought he played great. Everybody played good. Jamal Banks had a really good game. We saw Ja'Cory Barney Jr. early in the game. He's a freshman. Getting him in the mix in the first 10 plays. I thought our wide receiver room looked great. Yeah,
it's UTEP. It's the University of Texas Extra Picante. It's like who knows?
What was equally impressive though was the play of the offensive line. I thought the pass protection. I mean, Raiola had just unlimited amount of time back there, and his poise was incredibly impressive. It's going to be just fun to watch this guy develop over time, and I think he's going to be somewhat durable, Bob, because I don't think he's going to run the ball. You know,
he'll get rid of it rather than take the hit, which is although he got popped pretty good yesterday.
Yeah, he did
on a sack, but it's like, but he lived up to the hype. I think that's pretty much the story is he lived up to the hype. So here's my hot takes. You ready? 8 different running backs yesterday. 8.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Is a lot. There were guys running. I'm like, who's that guy? You know, we got a pretty good knowledge of the team. I had no idea who these people were. 11 different receivers yesterday, including some nice catches from Carter Nelson in the second half. The first quarterback with over 200 yards passing since October of 22, almost 2 years, which is just shocking when you think about it.
Didn't even play the fourth quarter.
Yeah, last year, Nebraska had one game where the quarterback did not turn over the ball. Already yesterday, no turnovers from the quarterback. Second, my favorite part of the game, though, besides all the other stuff, was 2nd and 30. What do? They pass for 19 yards and they get the first down. Like that's some stellar ball. I mean, they kept backing up. 2nd and 30, didn't panic, played the ball great. But the thing I like most about the way that Raiola throws the ball is, he makes throws that they wouldn't have made last year. That first touchdown throw, they wouldn't have made that last year. The second touchdown throw, wouldn't have made that throw last year. But he throws the ball to the outside shoulder of the receiver. So the only person who could really get the ball is the receiver. And it's just a great technique, well-schooled, super, and really a great... You couldn't ask for more in the first game.
Recall one of our... Maybe it was your comment yesterday, Bob, the fact that Satterfield is not the quarterback's coach, and they've got a dedicated quarterback coach. You could see it, I thought, especially in Heinrich Harburg's mechanics. Oh my God, he's a different player now.
Yeah, I was live tweeting to, I think, maybe one person yesterday, and I'm like, Satterfield, you have a great quarterback, use him. He got a little run happy for a while. It's like, mix it up.
The balance was, 47 rushes, 25 throws, 284 yards passing, 223 yards rushing. I mean, that's good.
The second half throws a lot of those stats off because you just kind of grind out the clock. But it was a satisfying victory. You know, I think that everybody in Nebraska over the last 7 years is conditioned to think the sky is going to fall on them. And yesterday, the sun came out. The sky did not fall. Birds were chirping. It was just unbelievable yesterday. Unbelievable. Another
bright spot, special teams play was pretty good.
No missed field goals.
Two punts for 48 yards. No gaffes on any of the sort of defensive special teams. Third down conversions look really good, 11 for 17. So all around a very, very top-notch performance from the Huskers, and very balanced.
All right, we're in love with the Huskers. Let's go around the league a little bit. What other games caught your attention yesterday?
Hold on. Let's touch base on. Remember, we always look at what the writers are saying.
Oh yeah.
Just a quick review of that. So this is Tad Stryker. Imagine that, a stress-free second half on a sun-splashed football afternoon in Lincoln. Wow.
That's what I just said.
Yeah. Stukenholt. The floor and the ceiling have been raised with Dylan Raiola as the new leader of the new-look offense. I 100% agree with that. Christofferson, what impressed the most it was the debut of Raiola's composure when put in a couple of tight spots. You just referenced that, Bob. Rubeck, the Huskers' offense looked leaps and bounds ahead of the unit that struggled to put away Louisiana Tech, another conference USA team from last season. Sherman, by the way, this is all on Husker Max, by the way, and I love their game page. He can play, but Raiola has weapons around him that compare more favorably to any group of players to suit up in Lincoln in the past 7 seasons. Totally agree with that. Chattel, the dean, talent wins. Matt Rule's second team flashed several positions on Saturday, particularly on offense. Agreed. Get used to seeing Raiola and Nair connection. I have a feeling that's going to be quite the duo for this season. So, it seems like the writing core is sharing our optimism, Mr. Brady.
Well, listen, the writers can't always be optimistic. They got to be a little just to the nature of the beast. We're fans. We don't have to pretend that we're neutral. We are not neutral. We're not neutral. We're all over this thing.
So, around the league, you know what? I just realized, Bob, we have another game tonight. USC plays LSU.
Yeah.
At 6:30.
I got to tell you, I admire teams who come out of the gate firing with iron. It's like you're not playing some 1AA team or some FCS whatever the hell they call it now. Like you're playing a really good team. So Texas A&M and Notre Dame yesterday. Notre Dame won that game. Georgia and Clemson. Whether Clemson's any good, we'll find out. But Georgia looked awesome. Georgia looked like a pro team out there yesterday. And then we have this one, LSU and USC. It's like I admire when teams come out with iron because now with the expanded playoffs, it's a little easier to do that because if you lose a game, you're not necessarily eliminated from the playoff because you're not going to have 12 undefeated teams. So if you lose a game, no big deal. And I think it's great for college football because it will encourage fewer patsies and more tough games to help qualify you in for the college football playoffs. But on the flip side of that, we have the powder puff games, which almost blew up in the faces of the teams. Two of them are names we know. Number one, Colorado. Colorado. I mean, come on. And then they're yapping about it after the game. I'm like, really? You beat a FCS team. Yeah, exactly. And luckily, they don't call pushing off at the FCF level. It's like
Shiloh Sanders is the dirtiest player in the game, and plus there should have been.
He's my least. Yeah, exactly. He's my least favorite player in the country. I do not like him at all.
We'll talk about Colorado next week, but they got lucky and they escaped.
And there should have been a targeting penalty there as well.
Guy cut the ball on the 4-yard line with no time left, and that's pretty close to screwing up the game.
Yeah.
But second, Oregon limping out with the victory against Idaho. Now they may get their act together, probably will, but for first impressions, it's terrible first impressions.
Look, the league went 17-1. Guess who was the one loss?
Northwestern.
Nope.
No, I always just say Northwestern. Who was the one loss? It wasn't Iowa.
Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Minnesota lost for UNC.
Yeah, they gacked it up at the end. But listen, that's still a tough game. It's not. They're not playing, UNC, extra picante. They're playing like real UNC.
Extra picante. I love that.
And so it's like at least they came out and tried hard. So PJ Fleck will get them pointed in a certain direction, but they'll be mid-table for
Washington 35-3, Michigan 30-10 versus Fresno State. UCLA just squeaked by Hawaii 16-13. Oregon, Idaho, as you mentioned, 24-14. Indiana 31-7. Florida International. Northwestern beats Miami of Ohio 13-6. Ohio State rolled.
Florida lost to Miami, which was
52-6 versus the Akron Zips for Ohio State.
Zips. It's like that's not what they left with their bank account. That's for sure. They left with a lot of money in their bank account after that game. Like, how much did Nebraska pay UTEP to have that game?
$1.6 million.
1.6.
Doggy.
You can buy a lot of picante for that.
Yeah, you can buy extra picante there. It's worth a lot of pesos if you just drive over to Mexico. It's like 5 miles away. So, all right. So yeah, it was a good day. It was a good weekend. I'm excited for the game tonight to see. USC has taken a beating in terms of the public press because Lincoln Riley's commitment to recruiting seems a bit not as good as other people. But we'll see if his scheme plays. And LSU, you just never know what you're going to get. You never know what you're going to get down at LSU. Oh, they're playing in Vegas, though, aren't they? Isn't it in Las Vegas?
Yeah, it's a kickoff thing. I think USC is going to win it, though. Miller Moss, I really like him, so I'm a little bit of a hot take.
You were a little bit right about the wide receivers yesterday.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens.
So here's my question for you two. Has the hype train turned into the hype rocket ship yet? And
so far it's justified. I mean, I think Raiola was super impressive. I mean, the offense, the transformation of the offense, Bob. I mean, 500 yards. Do you know that we averaged 18 points last year? 18 points.
Yeah, haven't had a 40-point game since I think the one that you and I went to where they lost to Georgia Southern.
And our defense, oh my God, these guys look good.
If you have to pay attention to the wide receivers now, it just opens up a lot, and it'll be interesting. But I tell you one thing about Raiola, he looks a little on the slow side. It's like he's not running because he's not fast. It's like he doesn't have that doesn't seem to have the quicks. So
yeah, he's a pro-style pocket passer, and our line's given him like hours back there. So, and he's just accurate.
That's right. Where are they? The University of Texas?
Don't get your hopes way up.
Extra picante. Let's not get too excited. But listen, last year when they played, was it Northern Illinois, and barely won that game. They were like half the game. You're like sitting on pins and needles. Didn't happen this year. Beautiful, beautiful, excellent week 1. Couldn't have asked for a better week 1.
So we are going to the game this week as a family. Unfortunately, Bob, you're not. Why are you not available for Colorado?
Because my wife's sorority sisters are all coming into town, and I have to walk around in a loincloth and serve them candy and
because
wine.
My wife's sorority sisters are coming to town. I can't go to the game.
You know, when I do it, it sounds mocking. When you do it, it sounds like you're 98 years old and you're about to like, someone change my diaper, please. So, come on, man. I appreciate the A for effort, absolute F for delivery. So you average like a C- on that one. It's like, oof, wow. It's like this. You ready? It's because my wife's in town. I have to do what she says. That's how you do it. That's how you do it.
All right. Final thoughts. Big G, what do you got?
I'm changing my prediction for the Colorado game. I think we're going to win that game. Colorado's defense is terrible. Tons of penalties, and they barely beat NDSU. And I mean, everybody's saying NDSU's a really good FCS program. They have been. But last year, they were not as good as people said they were.
Last week, somebody played New Mexico. Was it South Dakota State played New Mexico? And
New Mexico. Or are you talking about the Montana State game versus
something
New
like
Mexico?
that.
Yeah.
And they were 12.5-point favorites over New Mexico and barely won. And New Mexico almost won the game. So that's the kind of listen. If you're like an FCS team and you beat a Group of 5 team or like one of the big conferences, that's an amazing upset. If you beat one of the other ones, And if you beat Troy or something like that, no offense to Troy, but, you know, if Troy lost to Samford, you know, people wouldn't be like, oh, my God, that's incredible. But if Samford beat USC, then it would be a huge thing. So, listen, it's week 1. It's early. Much like our golf games, sometimes the first holes aren't the best. Or sometimes they're the best and then the rest of them are terrible. But I say, couldn't ask for a better week 1.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Just looking ahead here, Colorado, Nebraska.
Don't look ahead. That's the next podcast.
Their defense looks a little bit suspect. Their offense basically at the same stats as we did. They did 510 yards versus 513 for us.
I want Dante Dowdell to carry a football with him everywhere he goes this week and have people try to kick it out of his hands.
But here's the thing. It's one-dimensional. 445 yards of passing, 59 yards of rushing.
If you have one dimension and that dimension is awesome, one dimension can carry you an awful long way. Look at me in this. Look at me. This pretty face has brought me a long way. I got nothing besides this love bucket right here. I got nothing. It's a long way.
That makes it much easier for the Tony White to prepare for if you're a one-dimensional team. And I think that's the case with Colorado. So you just
tell him not to do something. He's just going to do it anyway. It's like
Shedeur Sanders.
It's like taking Mondale on a walk without a shock collar. We just need a shock collar for Jay. Like, get back.
Shedeur Sanders is going to have a hard time throwing on his back. So
there you go.
We're going to put some rush on this guy.
All right, gentlemen.
I'm surprised. We got to talk about one more thing. Why are we not talking about the Michigan game? They struggled with Fresno State, and they had to sub their quarterback out an hour before the game started. I mean, I don't think they're even top 25, to be honest. They are not a good team.
Fresno State's always tough. They're surprisingly tough. One of those West Coast teams that every once in a while will throw a scare into people.
It was 30-10. It wasn't that close.
30-10 is not good. And they just said they had a pick six right at the end of the game, so it was kind of like 23-10. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was slow. It wasn't a thrashing.
Yeah,
it was no thrashing there, boy. No thrashing.
Ohio State is winning the Big Ten, and they're probably going to win the championship, in my opinion. Nobody else has a chance in the Big Ten, in my opinion. Nobody. Maybe Penn State.
Well,
that's
we're gonna have. I think this team's going to get better and better and better, and I think we could be 7-0 going into Columbus.
The other thing we didn't talk about is Iowa scored 40 points yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't care if it was against Little Sisters of the Poor. They scored 40 points yesterday. I didn't know they could count to 40 in Iowa. It's like dang, 40 points. If Iowa can start scoring 40 points, what else is going to happen in the world? What other crazy things are happening in the world? I don't know.
Yeah, it was Illinois State, though. Come on.
And they was 6-0 at halftime, so they just had a good second half.
There you go.
Illinois State doesn't even have extra picante.
Sorry.
See, I got a good one in there, Bob.
There you go. Yeah, you're probably like fermenting on that for the last 20 minutes.
We started the preseason podcast by saying this year is going to be different. I think yesterday went a long way to showing us how different it's going to be.
Day one. Okay, so let's take it out. You ready? Go Big Red!
What, now do I got to say it? Is that, okay.
Yeah.
Go Big Red!
Go Big Red!